it's funny because we want all the grace going towards us, but we don't want to give it to anybody else. And that's the inner child in us. It is, because we feel life owes us that somehow. And it probably does, because all of us have had some rough things happen. But what's neat is the more grace you give, the more those things aren't going to hold you up.
Welcome to Living God's Light, a podcast to help you strengthen your spirituality and your connection with God. We are so happy to have you as a part of the Living God's Light family.
So I was just thinking about my holidays this past weekend and how I just was so much time spent with family. I mean, we went, we traveled up north from where I live, and 6 days not in my home with family. And it is so good, but I am glad to be home. And I just want to talk about how hard sometimes it can be to get thrown into your old ways, especially family patterns that have come up. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So what do you guys think? And how was your holiday, first of all?
I had a great holiday. I was like you. It's kind of funny getting into family. Family, you build patterns, you build almost characters that you play as a role in the family, and as that dynamic starts to play out, and you change and you get back to the family, you start playing that character again. You're like, wait, that's not me anymore. And so there's a recasting of characters now as we all grow. We're all going through that, but it's a fun, reflective experience. But I side on where my grandmother used to say. She said, family visits are great, but they're like fish. After 3 days, you gotta end it. It starts to stink,
Catch and release.
Yeah. Now, other than when you're a child and you're living in that family, that's different. Yeah, for me, it's a perfect opportunity to reflect and say, hey, look at this. Look how I'm different now. And instead of seeing it necessarily as, oh no, I'm falling back into my old traps or something like that, look at it as, wow, I'm glad that I recognize that I'm not that anymore. And I don't need to be that anymore.
Yeah. Can you define, I hear a lot the term family paradigm and this paradigm word. Can you define what a paradigm is?
A paradigm is like glasses. So it's like what you see the world through.
Okay.
It's, everybody has a different paradigm. Everybody has a different reality. There's not just one reality. Mm-hmm. We've kind of discussed that in past episodes.
Yeah.
But the paradigm is, it gets shifted every amount of growth that you accelerate through. Your paradigm shifts. But sometimes what happens, you get around family and you take off your old paradigm, your new paradigm, and you reach out, try to find your old paradigm, put it back on. It doesn't work because you're different. You're a different person now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I want to hear your thoughts, Lynn.
My dad, when you talk about paradigms, it's one of my dad's favorite words. And sometimes when you've got a jarring kind of, when your worldview is shifted by something, my dad calls it a paradigm shifting without a clutch. And so, you can have, my paradigm has shifted a lot over the years. I'm not the same person I was when I was a teenager. I'm not the same person I was when I first got married. In a lot of ways, my personality is different. I may have talked about before, I was in my early years, high school and all the rest, I had a really bad temper. One time I almost broke my hand punching something that wasn't meant to be punched.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, what?
I can't even imagine that because of the Lynn that I know. So that's crazy, but keep going.
Oh yeah, it was not good. I won't even talk about other things that happened. But at one point, I just decided I didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted instead, and part of this was going into the military, being a fighter pilot. And as a fighter pilot, one of the most important things you learn as a fighter pilot is your radio voice. Your engines may be on fire, your plane's falling out of the sky, but you've got to sound good on the radio. So,
Yeah.
So that's that kind of that calm, cool, collected, and also when lives are on the line and you're getting shot at, you've got to keep a cool head. And so I actively worked on changing that aspect of my personality, and I liked that so much that it just became like the new me. Like you said, things could be falling apart, and we talked last episode about being the eye of the storm. I try to be that in all aspects of life, no matter how crazy things get. Now, as a result of that, usually when things get crazy, people come to me and go, "Lynn, fix this." And I like being that guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some things you can't change. We've talked earlier. I've got a niece who she's paralyzed from the waist down because she got hit by a drunk driver. And outside of a divine intervention miracle, she's probably going to be in that wheelchair the rest of her life. But there are things we can control. And part of it, one of the big things that have helped me is realize there's like 3 spheres. There's the things you can control, there's the things you can influence, and then there's the things you have no control over. And many times we worry about things that we have no control over or even influence. But if you can bring your awareness and your intention to those things that you have control over, all of a sudden life gets simple. And it becomes a lot easier in those family dynamics and things like that you can't control your family members' opinions, but you can control your response to those opinions. And if that response is grounded in love, everything just gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking back to some of the conversations with family, and you're right. It's a choice within me on how I respond. But also what I just heard you say is my personality is my choice. And I can look back and just been like, well, this is who I am. This is who I grew up to be. I don't know why I do these things, but it's just who I am. But you're saying it's a choice.
Yeah, it can be obviously there's some limitations.
With habits too.
But it helps recognizing those limitations.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vinny.
I was just going to say you have habitual patterns underlying that too, though. So there is this, you feel like you're getting downgraded to go be by family, but no, it's just a memory of who you used to be around your family. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're grounded in who you are now and you have that awareness, you can go into those situations and go, okay, here's what I expect is going to happen. And this is how I'm going to respond to that thing as the new me.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a friend I was talking with just last night. Their family has kind of drifted. They're now all over the political spectrum. And they had some, I'll say, pointed conversations over the Thanksgiving holiday, but it was all grounded in love. And they came away with a deeper understanding and mutual respect because they came with the love. And like we talked last time with the Benjamin Franklin approach of not coming in with this is the way it is, being dogmatic about it. If you're like, well, in my experience, this is why I've come to this conclusion, or it seems to me, I may be wrong, but just coming in with that soft approach makes all the difference too.
Yeah.
Which is part of a personality trait that you can develop.
Yeah. Have either of you read Nathan Glad's book?
Yes.
Not yet.
So this topic makes me think of him. He is the epitome of, his book's called The Best Day Ever. But that little angel, and I truly mean angel, he is the epitome of having that positive perspective, even as things go his direction or definitely don't go his direction. He is keeping that positive smile even with a stiff upper lip, he's keeping that smile going. And I love his book. I listened to it on the way down from, Thanksgiving weekend. And it was great for me to remember that when we are able to get an eternal perspective, that even the harshest of obstacles that sit within us or sit in front of us, that they too shall pass, and that there will be a day where that is not an obstacle anymore. That's not a problem anymore. And we can smile all the way through it. We can have the choice to have a good time through our adjustments of life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just tried to find it and still moving into the new place. We should include a link to that book in the notes.
Absolutely.
So Nathan Glad, Best Day Ever. I saw him on, was it just last week?
Last Tuesday.
Yeah, so he just turned 18. He's got called brittle bone disease. I forget the technical name for it, but yeah, and he's got every reason in the world to not be happy. While he was writing his book, Best Day Ever, his best friend in the world, his dad, passed away in an accident, and he finished his book.
Wow.
And he is the most happy kid I've ever met. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I do feel that I gained a heavenly perspective really, truly when I found, Vinny, your story. And when I gained an understanding of heaven, it just gave me a heavenly perspective about this life. And, I was really struggling at the time with my family paradigms. I really was. Like, I was mad at my mom. I was mad at my dad, all while holding the understanding that they did the best with what they had with my childhood. But I was just looking at everything and going, it's their fault. And it was not their fault, but I couldn't sort it out because I was so here. I was so just stuck in my life. But getting that heavenly perspective of, this is temporary. I'm here to learn something. And what's really, really, really cool. So when I found your story, it was about 2.5 years ago, or no, a year and a half ago. And so I was struggling for like a year and a half before that. And this Thanksgiving, my mom was like, "Hey, everybody, gather around. I have a message from an angel." And I'm like so giddy because I'm like, I know this is going to be good. My mom sits us down, and she has always wondered, because her mom passed away when I was only 9 months old. And she has no voice recordings of her mom at all. And so she's wondered, why do I not have a single voice recording of my mom? I just want to hear her voice. Well, it turns out the previous day she had went to a family gathering, and they had this video to present to everybody of her mother sharing the most simple advice. She was 2 years into cancer, fighting cancer, so she knew she was going to die. And enjoy every moment, even with all the people you fight with that are close to you. Just enjoy every moment. And it was so beautiful. It was so simple. The clip is only 10 seconds, and my heart was healed towards my mom, who I was struggling so bad before with all the back stuff, and it was just a true gift. So I do believe, I had to make the choice to choose healing between me and my mom. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes we forget that our parents have that good intention as they do what they do, even though necessarily the application's not so effective or so good, but the intention's there.
Yeah.
And that helped connect you to your mom's intention to try to be that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a true gift. It really was. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also important that you were you actively looking for an opportunity to do that? Because I'm wondering if that was It's like walking down a hallway with a bunch of doors. You're looking for the first open door instead of, no, this door's got to open for me to make that choice, as opposed to, I'm just going to take any opportunity to love and forgive. Instead
You're
of,
asking.
well, yeah, I am, but I'm going to finish. Because I know of some people who, like, I'm going to forgive them when they apologize for this particular
Mm.
thing, or I'm going to make that change when this one thing happens. And it all hinges on one thing that is probably never going to happen in the way that they want. But if they're like, you know what, I'm just going to let it go and love, and then look for those things that validate that decision instead of being forced into it. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And looking back over my journey, I was trying. Like, I was trying to get that apology. I was trying to get the validation of my experience was true. I was trying to get my parents to see my pain and then take responsibility for my pain. And I very quickly realized that was not going to work. It wasn't. And I felt like I was looking at, like, okay, that's not going to happen. I have a choice to make. I can be mad at them forever, or I can choose to accept that I likely will not get that apology that I'm looking for. And how do I move on from there? So it was like, I know I need to heal my own self. I would still love the healing with my parents, right? Like, it was like these two things I still wanted. I want this healing in my heart, and I want my relationship with my parents to be good. So it was a choice within me to let go, that I wouldn't need that, and that I was searching for something, just something.
Something that I've found, this was something that somebody pointed out to me years ago, that talking about paradigm shifts, it was a paradigm shift for me, is I realized that when I'm frustrated, upset, or angry with somebody else, it's because they are not living up to my expectations.
Yeah.
And as soon as I realized that I wanted them to be somebody different than who they were, that's all on me.
Yeah.
My expectations. And this is something Vinny has taught me, is loving people where they're at, regardless, because that's how God sees us. God loves us as we are. Something I've heard Vinny say before that I love is that there's nothing you can do to make God love you more or less than God does right now.
I do love that.
And once I worked on seeing people in that light as God sees them, all of a sudden it's, kind of like Vinny, what is it you say when, oh, look at me over there?
Yeah, whenever I see something I don't approve of or I don't like, I say, I start a little mantra in my mind. Oh, look at me over there doing that. I can't believe I'm doing that. I need to give myself some grace for doing that. And it's pretty amazing to be a broadcaster of that love. It starts showing up in your world with other people giving you grace that you don't deserve either. It definitely goes both ways. It's funny because we want all the grace going towards us, but we don't want to give it to anybody else. And that's the inner child in us. It is. Because we feel life owes us that somehow. And it probably does, because all of us have had some rough things happen. But what's neat is the more grace you give, the more those things aren't going to hold you up. Like there's no amount of forgiveness that will heal someone else. Forgiveness heals you and only you. It doesn't heal the other people. Even if you say it to their face, it doesn't heal them.
Yeah.
It might make them feel less guilty, if they even feel guilt. Most people don't even feel guilt for, you give someone enough time, they don't even feel guilt for what they've done. So forgiveness is for us. It's 100% for us.
Yeah.
It's 0% for anyone else. It's only for us.
So can I ask you, Vinny, why does it feel so hard with parents? Sometimes. Sometimes.
When you're small, especially when you're really small, you look up at your parent like they're a superhero. Like they should know everything. They're going to protect you from everything. And then you get older and you become a parent, you realize, oh, how come I'm not like what I thought my parents were? And it's because they never were either.
Yeah.
They were just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
That's why, we have so many stories that parents tell their kids when they're real little, is so that they don't know what reality is
Yeah.
as they grow, It's a beautiful thing, though, to give some of that forgiveness to the parent. I had the opportunity in my life, and I still do, when memories come up, I will forgive my dad or even my angel mom. My mom's on the other side. And it's funny, though, after someone passes, grace is freely given. Before they pass, you don't give them grace. It's weird. You don't want to
Yeah.
give them grace. But after my mom passed, she got as much grace as I could give, like every moment, every day. But my dad, who's still alive, and I give him grace too, because it's about me. I need to let that healing happen for me, not
Yeah.
for him, for me.
Yeah. Because those relationships are divine, right? They are.
Yeah,
We
even
came
though
here with
we
a
don't want to.
purpose.
We don't want to think they are, but they are. They're divinely orchestrated. We plan them long before we come here. We plan those out.
Yeah. So beautiful.
I want to touch just really quick on something that we just mentioned about giving grace to yourself. Something I do on occasion on my social media is I do this Music Monday thing that I share because music's such a big part of my life. And a couple weeks ago, I shared one. It's a song by Andrew Peterson called "Be Kind to Yourself," and really that's what a lot of this is. If you can, when you're blaming things on your parents, and to be clear, I know there's people listening to this whose parents have been. I mean, some
Yeah.
people have monsters as parents, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about parents that had a good faith effort. And what I told all my kids as I was raising them, like, hey, forgive us if we don't get this right. I've never raised a Joshua before.
Yeah.
I've never raised an Ari before. We've had other kids before you, but this is the first time we've had you. So let's figure this out together. But on that, there's a line that I really like from that song by Andrew Peterson. It says, "How does it end when the war that you're in is just you against you against you? You've got to learn to love, learn to love, learn to love your enemies too." And sometimes we're our own worst enemy, and we don't give ourselves the grace. But and I'm sure you've all heard that you can't feel more love for someone else than you feel for yourself. And that one, I've always had a little hard time with that because sometimes I feel like I feel more love for other people than I do for myself. But as I started to learn to love myself more, it was amazing how much more I could love other people, mostly because of that forgiveness piece. Once I was able, and part of that was, and I won't share it this time, I'll share it some other time, about the experience I had with one of my kids that changed me. It was probably the most profound spiritual experience I ever had, where I felt the love that God has for each and every one of us. And once I realized that, I did not see anybody the same way again,
Wow.
including myself.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait
Yeah,
to hear that.
That changed you. I remember you sharing that experience with me, and
Oh, yeah.
and when you tap into what that love is for all of us, it's life changing. People try to debate me that, hey, God didn't come out and introduce himself in your experience, so it couldn't have been God or God's energy. And I say to them, I love them. I love that they have their opinion, but I know for a fact what I experienced was God. It was God through my, great grandfather, but I know for a fact that the grass that I felt, the trees that I felt, the flowers that I felt, the love energy I felt over there was the love God has for all of us. And I felt so unworthy of it, even in my spirit form or my soul form. I felt so unworthy of it because I was thinking from the paradigm of I'm physical. But we're not physical. We are eternal. we are energetic, and we are the proud creation of our Creator.
Yeah. So what is one thing that I can do today to try and shift my paradigm so that I might tap into that love for me? Like keep the focus on me to love myself. And that's what I hope our listeners do, is focus on the love for them and shift their paradigm there.
One really good exercise, and I use this in sessions all the time, is to metaphorically allow your consciousness to step up and out of your body and look down at that body that's there and ask, if this was my daughter, if this was my son, would I want them doing what they're doing? And when you put so many of us in our own lives, we will do things to ourselves that we would never let our children do to themselves or think about themselves. Even a casual acquaintance, we wouldn't want them to treat themselves that way, but we'll treat ourselves that way. So doing that little exercise of stepping out of the body, just in pretend and imagination, and allowing yourself to look at this being as your child, and what would you want them to do? It changes things. It allows you to kind of think differently as you put energy in your body, whether it's, consuming entertainment or food or whatever. It changes everything to have that little tweak on your perspective.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're just kind of asking the question, do you treat yourself like someone you love?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I got something to do today. I'm excited. All right, guys. I think this is a great wrap up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great place to end.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our listeners for being here. We love you so much.
And if this has touched you, if you think this would help somebody, feel free to pass it on to them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, share it around, like it, subscribe, do all the fun stuff for keeping up with the keeping up.
Yeah, it does help
Love
get
you
the
guys.
message out.
Yeah.
If it's meant something to you. But love you. Love yourself.
Thank you for joining us on the Living God's Light podcast. You can help keep the show going through getting merch at livinggodslight.com or contributing what you think the show is worth on our website or by going through Patreon. Thank you for sharing your light with the world. You are making a difference, and we love you.